Hello and welcome to Hump Day Hangouts episode 560. Today is the 20th of August 2025, and today it's just me and Bradley. Adam is somewhere on vacation or running in the woods as usual. But yeah, I'm fine. Weather is great as well. Cooled a bit down, so no, I don't know, like 37 degrees Celsius anymore and sweaty in the heat. So, like, better for work and focus. And I'm also going to say hello to Bradley. Bradley, how are you doing today?
I'm good, man. Happy to be here. I
Perfect.
was giggle when you say he's running in the woods because a lot of people probably have no idea what the inside joke is about that. But Adam likes to do trail running, but we also use that as a euphemism for getting high, which I don't even know how we made that an inside joke, but we always say, "Are you running in the woods again?" He really does run in the woods. But anyway, it just always makes me laugh because that's an old inside joke. It's still funny to me. Anyway,
All
glad
right.
to be here.
Good. Yeah, I'm glad to be here as well. What things do we have to cover today? I think we got local ops, right?
Yeah, well, I mean, local ops is now a product that's available all the time. It's good. I've had some pretty good feedback from it. Actually, just had my first appointment scheduled from one of the purchasers who bought it. And she's the only one that has completed it to 100% out of the people that have bought it. But she called and scheduled an appointment with me for semantic links, just to ask about our white label services and such. We had a call, I think it was yesterday. So it was cool to see that because that was the whole purpose of the local ops SEO system, was to provide the exact process that I apply to all my own local SEO campaigns, and the two options available for each of those tasks, or components of the overall process. And each one has either SOP, so that, or it has both done for you options and training or SOP available, so that people buy the local SEO ops, they can either execute all the fulfillment in-house or on their themselves, which I certainly don't recommend, or you can use white label services, or you can pick some things to do and others to outsource. And so it's all that's available there in the local ops kind of SEO system. So it was good to see. It was good to see one of the members who just bought it, because we just launched it 2 weeks ago. Schedule a call because she was going like, there's a lot of good information here. There's no way that I can do it all. I'm still trying to learn it, blah blah blah. And I said, well, that's precisely what the white label services are for. As long as you can mark it up with at least a 50% margin, there's really no reason to have to do all the stuff in-house. You know what I mean? In my opinion, if you can still make good margin on using a white label provider, why would you want to add the complexity of fulfillment and the responsibility and the stress and all that kind of stuff? I'm not saying don't. Certainly, if you have already capable teams, by all means do it. But it's just another option. That way you can get to chasing revenue instead of doing fulfillment. So anyway.
Nothing beats a
But yeah,
simple
local
system.
ops is available, and that's just something we're going to be mentioning often. That replaces the battle plan. It's fully current, so go check it out.
Yeah, and as I said, nothing beats a winning and simple system.
That's right. That's right. In fact, Chris and I, and well, Adam will be too, are going through a kind of a business operating system program that's going to help us to kind of simplify our own internal processes, become more focused, less scattered, and all of that. And I think it's an exercise that all of us should go through. I'm already trying to apply some of the ideas to my white label services. And, with AI, I was talking about this. I forget who I was talking with this about the other day, but um, I've got my content team at Semantic Links. There's like 18 writers, or they're not really writers because the AI writes the content, but we have 18 team members that are responsible for content. And so they manage and edit the content. They prompt the AI to draft the articles, and they go, and it's all human revised. So they revise everything, like edit it, and then insert the links and that kind of stuff. They prepare the content, and then we have a different team that publishes or posts the content. But anyway, I've got 18 team members at Semantic Links, and they're in the Philippines, and I pay my content team members per article published, instead of per hour. So they make money based on their output, their productivity, and I pay on average 10,000 a month in labor charges for content alone, for just that, just the publishing of posts. And so now with AI, there's really no reason for me to be paying that anymore. And here's where I'm getting with this is, we have built this team, and I've got employees that are fiercely loyal. that produce very well. They follow instructions, all that kind of stuff. And I don't they have a project manager manages them, so I don't even interact with them. But they're a good team. And so I contacted my executive assistant Hazel, who manages and owns the staffing agency that basically staffs most of my personnel needs. And I contacted her and I was like, look, I just went through this business operating system kind of initial plan a couple of weeks ago, and one of the things that I identified through that process was that I've got a lot of waste and redundancy that's not needed with AI available. Like all this personnel, and I'm spending all this money and labor to generate and edit articles that an AI agent could absolutely do now. And I said, I don't want to let all those people go. They've been critical part of building and growing this business, and I don't want to let them go. But at the same time, I can't justify, it doesn't make good business sense to keep paying $10,000 a month for content when I could pay $1,000 a month and have AI do it, and maybe just have one or two human editors that put their eyes on everything before it's published. And that's basically, all that is really needed for what we're doing. And so, I think there's opportunities to, especially now with AI, because you can, like what Chris and I are going through, and Adam, but Chris and I are really doing it. Adam's going to be kind of just contributing his input kind of remotely. But anyways, there's like, it's really cool to have all these kind of AI chats with very specific models that they build upon each other and they ask you questions. You have conversations, and it helps to find these areas within the business that can be optimized and improved and all that kind of stuff. And that's where I see the real power of all this stuff is kind of identifying things that can be improved and optimized, and then reduce costs, reduce overhead, automate, make sure, there's personnel make mistakes. So by automating a lot of this stuff, it will also reduce some of the human errors that occur. You know what I mean? So I told Hazel that I was like, I want to replace, 15 out of our 18 writers or 8 content personnel with AI that is going to be, I'd like to develop that and get that done, or have it developed to where, we have a good process with some human editors in kind of in the middle, but not nearly as much spent on labor. And I said, but I would really like to try to transition the employees, the workers, into some other duties, so that we're not just letting them go, because I don't want to do that if I don't have to. But, I'm not running a charity, just to be clear. I'm running a business. So we have to, it just has to be focused on the bottom line. But at the same time, I do want to take care of my employees, because this business wouldn't be where it's at today without them, if that makes sense. So interesting times. There's some really cool AI prompts and stuff out there for doing this kind of stuff that, like, Chris and I are working through. It's really, really cool. So
Yeah, not only
anyway,
that, like in my opinion, a lot of people are like scared that they will lose, or like that will be replaced by AI. I see it a
yeah,
little bit different. So in my opinion, AI will replace people, but also create new jobs.
I agree. Yeah, new opportunities. As some doors close, new ones will open. So
Exactly.
right on. Well, anything else? Any other announcements before we get into questions?
Um, Anything regarding Mastermind?
No, just that. Oh, interestingly, I've talked about this the last few weeks. I hired, again, part of my executive assistant Hazel, her staffing agency. She recently launched an AI dev division, and she hired several college students that are studying computer science and AI and stuff like that. And so she's built this little team of AI developers. It's great. And I mean, I'm super impressed with what Hazel's done, which, by the way, Hazel is in the United States right now. She's been in the Philippines. She's been working for me for over 10 years. It's her 10-year anniversary this year that she's been working for me. And we've never spoke, ever. Never have we had an audible conversation in 10 years. She's been a critical component of my business. That's why she's my executive assistant. Again, she runs her own staffing agency. She's available too, guys, in case anybody needs virtual assistant support and help and stuff. She runs her own staffing agency. She's very good. But anyway, she's in the United States right now. She came about 2 or 3 weeks ago, and she's coming on Friday. She's flying to Washington, D.C. on Friday and coming down to Roanoke, Virginia. I'm in Pikeville, Kentucky, but my folks own a lake house near Roanoke, Virginia. So I'm going to go up there this on Friday, and she's going to drive down Friday evening or Saturday morning to Roanoke from Washington, D.C. So I'm going to get to meet her in person for the first time. And we never even spoke, right? It's always been via Slack, or used to be Skype and all that kind of stuff. So anyway, it's just really interesting. But as I was saying, she built this little dev team, this AI dev team that has been working on a AI developed version of the Syndication Academy training that we had, and kind of the syndication app that we had developed using IFTTT. Very simple, just republishing of posts from a blog or some sort of content trigger source, like an RSS feed or a YouTube channel. And I tasked her, she approached me with her AI dev team to say, like, this is our new division, and I want to offer it to you. Is there anything that that you have a need for? And I said, yeah, it's perfect timing. I was thinking about hiring an AI dev company to develop an app that will repurpose content and reformat it, create supporting content from an original source of content, not just republish it, not spin it, but create entirely new supporting content in different media formats. So take a text-based article, like a blog post example, and convert it into supporting articles, videos, audio, images, etc., and then have another AI agent or component of the agent that then distributes and republishes that content on various platforms. And so essentially, she said, yeah, we can do that. And so we started that project about, I don't know, maybe 5 weeks ago now. And I thought there was really two separate agents that were going to be developed: the content engine, and then, or this, content generating agent, and then the content distribution agent. But in the video, Chris, I know you saw it in the thread today. The most recent video that they send, a weekly update video showing the progress and of the development, and everything. They've actually she's simul Jean or Jeannie, I think, don't know how to say it. She's simul-tracking the development of both agents, because they've already started on the content distribution agent, and they've already got it integrated with WordPress and Blogger and Facebook and X and LinkedIn. And so it's really, really cool. I'm really excited because I was expecting, I knew we were close to having the content agent done, and I thought that they had to entirely start on the distribution agent. So today was a pleasant surprise, because I realize now that we're going to be closer to having we'll have a finished product sooner than later. So that's one of the things that we're going to be discussing in the mastermind. We're probably going to introduce that kind of content syndication app, which with the AI component and everything, into the brand expander training, which is one of our very our lowest tier kind of like monthly subscription offer. But it fits really well into that training. We're probably going to have some more advanced versions of it and some done for you services available too, very soon as well, once the app is done and I get to test it thoroughly. But more of that information will be coming as that app is ready, comes online. It's close though. I'm pretty excited. So, all right, yeah. So Costco membership is a great question. And then Chris, if it's cool with you, I'm going to grab the screen and get right into questions.
Sounds good.
All right. Costco says, once this content republishing tool is live, will that be available as a service? Yeah, I'm definitely going to make it a done for you service. Once I have it up and running, it will be one of the white label services that we offer, so that you can rebrand it as your own, and use and have us fulfill for you guys. Okay, for sure. Absolutely. We're going to be pushing a lot more and trying to grow our white label services a lot more under Semantic SEO brand over the next several months. So you guys will be hearing a lot more about that as we prepare a little bit more for that. Okay. Okay, guys. Well, thanks for being here, Brent and Costco. And we're going to jump into the questions. We got a handful of questions here that were posted. This one's a good one that I'm actually going to answer, even though a lot of times I don't have the ability to look at these sort of resources that are provided on a call. But since we don't have a lot of questions today, I'm going to go ahead and jump into it. This is a question from Keith. He says, when you have a local grid that looks something like this, which is this image here, he says, strong in some areas, but weak in others. What is the best way to target the other areas? This is a major city, and the ratings are 1 kilometer apart. So meaning each one of these nodes are 1 kilometer in distance apart. He's saying, should I add some location content for those specific areas? These would be streets or urban neighborhoods, or just add driving instructions from those locations to shop. Grateful for any suggestions. Okay, so driving directions, driving instructions, whatever, and then having that map and kind of embedding that map on pages and things like that. That used to be really effective. I don't know if it still is so much. If David Morgan was here today, he would probably be able to chime in on that, because I know he still does a lot of stuff with my maps and driving directions and things that I really don't do in my services anymore. I'm sure that when done properly, doing the driving direction thing still works. It's not something that I've done in any of my agency services or in my SEO, my kind of flavor of SEO. I haven't done anything like that in several years now, because we just focus more on the relevant side of things and pushing proper relevance and building brand authority, branded location authority, and that kind of stuff. Not saying that won't work. I'm just saying I don't do that, the driving directions things with the maps and stuff like that. I personally don't do it. I'm not saying it doesn't work. I just don't do it. So I don't know how to give you proper guidance on using that type of a method. I'll give you the method that I do, though. I'm perfectly happy sharing that on this Hump Day Hangout because I think it's valuable and I know it works. Okay. It's going to require a little bit of content, publishing of content from well, on the main website, publishing blogs or not blogs, pages. Well, they can be posts, but whatever. Publishing pages to target neighborhoods. I'm going to give a very specific example here, not in your area, but I'm just going to use Phoenix, Arizona, as an example to kind of demonstrate what it is that I'm about to describe here. Okay, and the reason I'm using Phoenix is because I just did a full SEO audit for a link building client within the last 2 days or so, or 3 days, and they were in Phoenix. It might have been a competitive link analysis report, but in any case, it was an audit or a competitive link analysis report. And their client that they, because remember, my clients are SEO agencies or consultants, et cetera. So their clients, GBP, it's in the city of Phoenix, but the city of Phoenix is very big, and there's neighborhoods or like designated neighborhoods that are entities, like location entities. They have their own official Wikipedia page, et cetera. And so there's ways, and that's also like in other large cities, like for example, Houston or Austin and things like that. You can find oftentimes uh, uh, districts or communities or whatever they title them as, they label them as a district, a community, a neighborhood, whatever. But you can find sections of the city, which are smaller regions, geographic regions within the city. So, I mean, obviously, a very obvious example would be like the boroughs of New York City. It's all still New York City, but there's the Bronx and Brooklyn and blah blah blah. You see what I'm saying? So that's where you can then get a little bit more granular by then adding, if you have a top level city page for the main city that you're trying to rank in, then you can create as child pages or posts within posts placed within that city category, or child pages as child pages under the parent city page for the specific cities or neighborhoods or districts or boroughs or whatever it is that they call them. Okay. And then by doing that, you've added location relevance to the main website and the internal linking between and how you internally link the top level city page with the supporting location pages, and vice versa. How you link from the supporting location page is up to the top level service location page, city location page. That matters too. And so we'll talk about that in a minute. I'll kind of thoroughly more explain this and provide a specific example in just a minute. Okay. Conceptually, I want to talk about it first. So that's number one. Number two, now that you have each of those supporting location pages that are properly nested under the appropriate city page, right? Whether that, again, that's a post or a child page, depending on how you structure it, it doesn't matter. It all accomplishes the same thing. Now you've got what you would want to do is publish Google business posts, two for each neighborhood, district, borough, etc., that you create the additional supporting location pages for. You're going to publish a minimum of two posts per each one of those locations. Why? Because one of them is going each for each initial sub supporting location page, you summarize the text of the page into the post body of the GB post. It's only, I think, 1,500 characters. So that's about 200 to 250 words, somewhere in that range. Okay. So you just use AI to summarize the text of the page. And now you post that summary with a, call to action. Always do that anyway. And then you're going to use the learn more button to link directly to that supporting location page on the money site. Then you're going to post a second post that's going to link to the top level city page to make the connection, where you're still going to reference that neighborhood or borough, district, whatever name, the smaller region within the larger city. You're still going to reference that in the first line of text of each of the GB posts, because that's the most important place for it in the GB post, the first line of text. So you're going to associate the neighborhood, borough, community, district, whatever name with the top level city. And then it basically just a summary of the page that it's linking to, which is a page optimized for that borough, district, neighborhood, whatever it is. You understand? And that CTA button, learn more, should link from the GB post to that post URL or page URL, whatever it is. Then you're going to do it again, the second one with a reworded text, but still referencing that location in the first line of text of the post. And then you're going to link to the top level city page. You understand what you're doing is you're creating a connection and association. It's already been established on the site through the hierarchy of the pages, right? The way that you've structured those pages as child pages or posts within a particular category, again, depending on how it all accomplishes the same thing. You've established it there. Now you're establishing it on the GBP, and you're making a direct link connection between the website and the GBP, thereby validating the information on both sources. Does that make sense? You're creating agreement, corroboration between the GBP and the money site. All right. Now, preferably, if possible, if you can get images, photos that are taken from mobile devices within each of the boroughs, districts, neighborhoods, whatever that you're going to be targeting, and then using those photos to upload just directly to the GB profile, um, because that then supports now the website and the GB posts that are saying that are claiming that they do products, or, they provide their services or products or whatever in this area here as an example. Now you've got supporting evidence via photographic evidence with geographic metadata that has been unaltered that is also uploaded to the GBP. Then you use those same photos on the pages, the neighborhood pages, and within the GB posts when you're linking to those pages. You understand? Now that's again, if you can get that done, if you can get your client to upload photos directly to the Google Maps listing, that's all that matters, because like from a mobile device, like, so their technicians, their sales personnel, whatever that goes out into the field, if it's a service area business, have them snap photos at one of, a service location or a customer's location, client's location, whatever, out in that area, and just upload those photos directly to Google Maps. Let me demonstrate. I'm going to give you guys a couple of examples. As I said, I would. We're going to use Phoenix as an example because, like I said, one of the people I talked to the other day, or did a competitive analysis or full SEO audit, whatever it was, I'm going to show you exactly. By the way, this is the Phoenix City Wikipedia page, okay? Not the greater Phoenix metropolitan area. That's a region page. This is the city itself. But if we come over and we look at geography, you can see cityscape and neighborhoods. And here's a map of the neighborhoods with, these are the neighborhoods that have actual entity. They're considered entities because they have a Wikipedia page. It's a person, place, or thing as an entity. And when it's got a Wikipedia page, it means it's officially recognized as an entity, at least by Wikipedia, which means Google will recognize it as an entity as well. So this is which you call a location entity, right? So you can see that these are neighborhoods. And right here's the map that shows the areas where those neighborhoods are located within the city of Phoenix. Do you understand? And so what I'm saying is there's a if there's a like the example that I'm referring to when I was doing this training for audit client or a competitive link analysis client or whatever the other day, and I'm not going to reveal the business. So if whoever that is watching or watching this later time, I'm not going to reveal the business, but it was located right in here somewhere in this Desert View area or neighborhood of Phoenix. But they wanted to target specifically downtown Phoenix, right? That because they're doing really well up here. Now, remember, this is a very densely populated area. Okay. So the more densely populated an area generally means there's also going to be more competitors in the same business vertical, right? Because the more densely populated, by nature of it being more populated, there's likely going to also be a higher concentration of businesses that provide the same products or services. So the more densely populated an area, the less area coverage a GBP is typically going to get, because it's all based upon proximity. And there's a number of variables that Google uses to determine how much maps coverage a GBP is going to get. One of the main influencers, some of the variables that influence how much maps area coverage you can get in map search, with the GBP, is population and the number of competitors. So as you can imagine, something as densely populated as Phoenix, especially around the downtown area, there's going to be a higher concentration of businesses in the downtown Phoenix area than there would be up around here, right? And there's still quite a lot of competition up here too, just to be clear. But the point was, their business was located way up here, and they were trying to get maps coverage down here. Now, I was very clear when I provided this training that I'm about to share with you guys now, or that I am sharing with you guys. I was very clear that it's unlikely that they will ever get that GBP to show up in the top 3 for anybody in the downtown Phoenix area. You understand? Because just the nature of how GBP search works, or map search works. It's based upon proximity. 100% now. Again, it's very unlikely that they could ever be in the top 3. They might, because even though the city is there's GBP had a published street address and it said Phoenix. So it's not like a separate, section of the city in the actual address. It's the Phoenix zip code. It's in the city of Phoenix, but it's in that northern section, like I was showing here. And this example was in, I think, Desert View is where it was, somewhere in here. And the area, let me zoom in on this, guys, because I know it probably looks small on your end. Central City is where downtown Phoenix is. That's where essentially where they wanted to target. You guys see what I'm saying? So what I was explaining though was, first of all, I was very clear about the likelihood of them not being able to get into the top three in the downtown area ever, no matter what they do. Okay. And even if they do, it's likely not going to last because the type of business that they were in, I guarantee you there was dozens, if not hundreds, of those same businesses in the located in the downtown area. And so the likelihood of a GBP that's located way up here ranking in the downtown area for somebody in the downtown area that searches for a keyword or keyword plus near me, or even the keyword plus the Phoenix modifier, which is relevant to all of those locations, Google is much more likely to return businesses that are physically located nearby the searcher, right, from where they are searching. And so it's unlikely that they will ever get those maps rankings. However, what you can do and what you always should try to do for all clients is try to push that green area, which means the area with which they are in the top three results, as far and wide as possible. And so if they are trying to target the Central City downtown, again, I was very clear that it's likely that one's never going to happen with the maps ranking. They could do it with organic ranking, but likely not with maps, GB profile, without getting a separate profile, GB profile verified in the downtown area. However, there was a pretty significant drop off of where they were ranking. They were ranking quite well in their local area, but there was a pretty significant drop off, and it was very clear too. Because I'm sure you guys are aware, sometimes the drop off is gradual, sometimes it's very sharp. It goes from green to almost straight red with like no orange in between, if that makes sense. And that was one of the, and to the point where in Bright Local, if it's not even registering as an impression for that query, like depending on where it is, you'll see a red line in the dot in the the node or whatever, the local search grid. And so if it goes from being in the green to like maybe one row of orange and then to red and then like red lines, like just the lines, that means it's not even getting an impression anymore in map search from where that search occurred. You see what I'm saying? So that's why I know for a fact when I was telling this client in the video that I was saying it's because of that data, and you can see it in the report. I was telling you see that as an indication that it's likely you will never be able to get anywhere near the top three for map search because it's not even registering for that query in map search once you get one or two neighborhoods away from where it's currently located, if that makes sense. But so back to the original point, how can you push into those areas? Now, this was an extreme example which doesn't appear to be very extreme, but it is because again, the way that map search works now is based upon proximity. Period. Okay. So there's that, but what I was saying to him was that you could start to push that green further towards Central City, which is downtown Phoenix, basically. To the extent with which you can push the green area, we don't know without targeted testing, right? Without doing it and just seeing where it is. There's always going to be an invisible barrier or a visible boundary, so to speak, of where where Google thinks it's appropriate for a GB profile to rank or to give it, in the top three, I mean, okay. And even when you can, which by the way, you can brute force past some of these limitations, but it's usually very temporary, meaning you could do a ton of link building and things like that, ton of CTR perhaps, whatever, and sometimes push into those areas that are typically not allowed, or the Google doesn't typically allow a Google business profile to rank in the top three because of the proximity variable. Sometimes you can still get into those though, but usually it doesn't last very long. Like it's an enormous amount of work and resources to keep it there. That's been my experience, and that I've seen it, even if we can brute force it in there, usually it doesn't last very long because at every opportunity that Google has to kind of narrow that exposure back down a bit to a more reasonable level, at least according to what Google considers to be reasonable, it tends to do that. Okay. So that's been my experience. And so what I would typically recommend is as far as like linking or trying to build, like I said, I don't do like the driving direction stuff and all that kind of stuff. And I really don't do a lot of CTR anymore because not with apps. If I'm doing CTR, I will buy Google Ads. I call it proximity push. I've been calling it that for years, as buying Google Ads traffic using the display network where I can set my geographic targeting, preferably with a relevant audience segment, right? So like an in-market segment, such as in my industry, there's the in-market, meaning they're in the people, the Google users that Google places into this defined audience segment, predefined audience segment, are likely in market based upon their search history, et cetera. the places that they visit, the website, the searches that they've done, the websites that they visit, the physical locations that they visited, all that kind of stuff that Google determines that they are likely in market for lawn and landscaping services or home improvement services with a sub target. There's kind of a subcategory for targeting for lawn and landscaping services. And so for in the tree service industry, I will set geographic targeting. So for example, if I had a tree service company in Desert View that was trying to rank down or trying to get maps exposure down in Central City or which downtown Phoenix, I mean, then what I would do is I would set up some CTR campaigns where I would create a very tight geographic radius targeting function in Google Ads using display ads. And I would select an in-market segment for lawn and land, or excuse me, home improvement services, lawn and landscaping. So that's a subcategory of home improvement services. And then my display ads would have a link that would click directly to the GBP. I would use various target URLs as the destination for the click, right? The Google Map profile. Seriously, you have to take the long Google Maps URL, the long, ugly one with all the latitude and longitude and everything. You have to use that one in the Google ad because you can't do a redirect. But you can use that. You can send link clicks from a Google ad, a display ad, directly to the Google profile map, right? The Google Maps listing. You can send it to a modified search query string, like a google.com question mark equals, and in the query where you can add a branded search query, brand plus keyword. So like tree service or brand plus a location modifier, right? So if tree service is in the name and then you add the location modifier, now you're getting the association between the brand and the location. And you can simulate almost a search and click signal from a, manipulating a search URL and then sending clicks to it, right? That's another way to do it. So there's a number of things that you can do where you're buying Google user traffic from a narrowly defined geographic area, from an in-market or in-segment, whatever, audience. In-market segment is what I recommend, or you can create a custom segment, a custom audience, custom segment, whatever it's called in Google Ads now. And then those people that are perform those clicks are, Google knows their history. That's why Google put them into that predefined audience segment, right? So Google knows that they're in the area. That's why that's why you set geographic targeting. And then Google knows that they are likely in that market for whatever the product services are. So when you receive that click is weighted significantly heavier than just some random click out there or some click that ran through a bot and some mobile proxies and everything else to spoof like it was an actual local consumer click, right? It's a different way to kind of do CTR. And that's really the only way that I like to do it when it's needed, when I'm trying to do, like, otherwise I'm just going to use one of the CTR apps that integrates with Search Console so it doesn't over optimize the campaign and send too many signals and all that kind of stuff. But that's one of the things that I would recommend if needed. But that's very hard to scale. And that's part of the reason why I only do that when it's absolutely necessary. If I've got a particular client where there's, an area that they really want to target, and we're having trouble getting results with the normal methods, then I will go set up a Google Ads campaign for that. And like I said, it's a bit more manual. It's not really easy to scale. That's why it's not something that I do as standard operating procedure. In fact, let me just double check this. I had local ops open earlier. I'm going to open that up really quickly because I believe I even referenced that in the local ops training system. This is what I was just talking about earlier. Yeah, it's down here, proximity push, CTR. This is exactly the method I was just talking about right here, right? So to get back to what the original question was, I know I spent a lot of time on that, but I figured this would be a really good opportunity to train about this. The method that I would use for this would be to go, do some research about the city that your client is in. Identify how they break it down. I think it even said in the question by boroughs or neighborhoods or whatever, or would be streets and urban neighborhoods. Yeah, you can break it down by that. Preferably if you can identify those that have Wikipedia pages, which means they're recognized as a location entity. That makes it even better. But even if not, like just for example, you could go to a search for something like, I'm just going to use Phoenix again because that's the example we've been using for today's training, PHOENIX. Neighborhoods in Phoenix, I'm going to go to Google search. And there's a couple of them. Homes.com is one of them. Another one is called Neighborhood Scout. I don't know if I see that right off the top here, but another one is Neighborhood Scout where you can, again, preferably you want to use, location entities or those that are have a Wikipedia page, right? Official location entities if possible. But you can still also try that as supporting pages or posts with kind of neighborhoods. So like I was going to show you homes right here, homes.com. You can reference some of these as well. A lot of the times what I will do with these though is instead of creating separate pages for neighborhoods, I will determine where the neighborhood is within one of these, neighborhoods or whatever they call these in Phoenix, right? Where are these housing communities located within these defined neighborhoods? And then what I would do is on that neighborhood or supporting location page, I would reference just a mention of the housing communities, developments, whatever, that are located within that specific neighborhood or borough, district, whatever. Do you see what I'm saying? Because that's just adding more geo-relevance to where that housing community is located, which is contained within one of these districts or neighborhoods or communities or whatever. That's clear. So the point here is you publish the content on the money site in the proper hierarchy, right? Nested under the appropriate top level page. From the top level page, once you've got all of your supporting location pages created, you're going to want to create an internal link element within the main content body. So it's a contextual link, not a navigation type of link, within the main content body of the top level city page. And then you're going to reference like the neighborhoods or communities, boroughs, districts, whatever it's called, in the Phoenix area that we serve, right? Or in the city of Phoenix that we serve, or however you want to word it. Basically, it's an H2 statement that would introduce that internal link element. Then from there, I would just have a little table, right, with bullet points that are with the names of the neighborhoods, town, city, whatever they are, neighborhoods, communities, whatever, with H3 anchor text links, because now you have an H2 statement with H3 anchor text, H3 locations that are in H3 within H3 formatting that support the statement that the H2 made. And because the link is an H3 anchor text link, it's given a little bit more significance, right? Google, there's more significance to a link when it's the anchor text is a H tag, some sort of a heading or subheading, than it is when it's just regular paragraph text, right? So it's a signal to Google that those are very important. And now it's an internal link from the top level city page down to each of the supporting location pages. Vice versa, on each of the supporting location pages, you want to have an internal link back up to the top level city page. Now you can also link to, if wanted, if desired, to the other sibling supporting location pages. So there can be internal links between those supporting location pages as well if you want, but doesn't have to be. The most important thing is to have a link back from that content body, a contextual link with it from the supporting location page back up to the top level page. And that's also where you want to make sure that in each of those supporting location pages, you would have, again, another H2 introducing the services that are available at that location or in that area, that neighborhood, whatever. And then that would be the internal link element that's going to list and link to with H3 anchor text links to the top level service pages. So now what you've done is you've created an association between each one of the neighborhoods and the specific services, right? And now through the supporting location pages, supporting location pages have clearly shown the connection in the hierarchy, the association with the top level city because of the internal linking. Now, when you remember what I said about publishing Google Business Posts, you want to publish a post for each neighborhood supporting location page with the CTA button, learn more, linking back to that post or page URL. Then you want to publish this, not the same post, but reword it, whatever, basically another post with optimized for that same neighborhood and link that with the CTA button to the top level city page. Now you've created kind of like, again, a co-citation link wheel between Google Business Profile and the main money site. And the way the internal linking is done on the main money site, when you build a link to one of the supporting location page, what happens? It flows up to the top level location page and to all the relevant services that are available in that specific neighborhood area or whatever. And when you build a link to the top level city page, what happens? It flows down to all of the supporting location pages and also to all the service pages that are relevant to that area or those locations. So it's a way to create internal link wheels, but also do it with Google Business Profile and create all this data with, again, if you incorporate the images, if you can get the client to do that, which I started to show you that and I didn't. So let me just grab this very quickly and just say, I'm just going to say plumber in Phoenix, just as an example. Okay. And God damn it, I got to reset my browser settings. I don't know why I still have this on Bing. Let's just pick this guy here, Maloney Plumbing and Drain Services, right? If we don't, you don't have to, let's got, this one's a shorter name. Let's go, never mind. We'll go with that one. Okay. I'm just going to copy that. If the client has personnel that go out into the field, what I'm telling you is to ask them to take photos when they go out to a sales call or to, provide the service. If it's, like a plumber, they go out to do plumbing services, the customer location, or, I don't know what business you're in, but in any case, If it's a service area business where the business goes out to the customer location, then when they go out to that area, like this back in this screenshot, the area that's not like, let's use that as an example, that's not performing as well. Okay, go out there, take some photos at the job site or the client's location, whatever it is. Take some photos. And then all you got to do is go to Google and search for the company name. Let's use that as the example, right? The field personnel do this. They don't need to be Google Business Profile managers. They don't need access to anything special, nothing. Just go to Google Maps, search for the company name, open it up in Maps, and then you can add photos and video. Anybody can do that, right? I'm not logged in. That's why it's not letting me, or it might even let me, but it's going to prompt me to log in. See, I'm not logged in this browser, but anybody can add photos, right? Anybody can add photos to this GBP, this Maps listing. So that's all you want to do, because that then now is photographic evidence that Google can read. And because of Street View, Google will make the association that that is a photo that was taken where it said it was, plus there's the geographic metadata that's embedded in the file. When it's unaltered, then it's valid if uploaded directly to the Maps profile. As soon as you start messing with the EXIF data and everything else, I know there are some apps that do it well, but the vast majority of them will leave kind of a fingerprint that the EXIF data has been modified, and Google will ignore it if that's the case. Okay. So anyway, that's what I would recommend. I know that was a very long-winded answer, but that was a great question. And those are the ways that I get results. Again, if absolutely needed, I will do CTR using the proximity push method using Google Display Network ads. So anyway, it's a great question. I appreciate that one. I'm going to move on. Costco says, I thought when you upload a photo to a GBP, it strips the metadata. It does, depending on how you upload it, right? If the file's been modified at all, or if it's been saved, if you take a photo, here's the thing, take a photo on an Android device, then go view it in Google Photos and click the eye icon, which is the information icon, and take a look at all the vast amounts of data that are available, as long as the location settings are on the phone. And who doesn't have those on anymore? You know what I mean? Only tinfoil hat people that, think the government is always watching them and blah, 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 might not have location settings on. Everybody else has location settings on. So if you take a photo, go and it's on Android, it's going to automatically be backed up in Google Photos, right? Go look at it in Google Photos, click the eye icon and go look at it. It'll tell you all kinds of incredible information about where you were. If you're traveling in a vehicle and you take a video and you can go to Google Photos and look at the info icon. It'll tell you the velocity with which you were traveling at the time that the video was recorded. It's not a joke. It's crazy. And so that type of photo information, when taken on a mobile device and uploaded directly to Google Maps, that data transfers. The moment that you take that photo and you save it and then send it via email or send it via text or send it via Google Drive or anything else, boom, it will strip it out. Like, basically that original data is no longer all present. You see what I'm saying? That's why I'm talking about having the client or the field personnel take the photos on location and upload directly to Maps. That's precisely why I said that. I didn't say save it. I didn't say put it into a folder somewhere and then send it to the SEO. I didn't say that. I said have the personnel that are out in the field take photos on their mobile device, and then they don't have to do it right there. They can do it later. It doesn't matter. That data doesn't change. But that is unaltered, unmodified, virgin photo file. Do you see what I'm saying? And now that file uploaded directly to Maps, that data transfers. Otherwise, it doesn't, according to what I've been told and through testing. That's why I don't bother with geotagging photos anymore, guys. I don't do it. We do QR code and logo overlay, and that's it. Because when we used to geotag photos, but Google eventually closed that loophole. It's not something that I'm going to spend time on anymore, so it's not even part of our SOPs anymore. That's clear. All right. Okay, moving on. Next one is Matt. He says, I saw an old video you used to offer map pack guarantees within 4 months. Are you still able to get similar results with that time frame with your current link building SOPs? Or does it take longer now to do more competition and algorithm changes? No, I still provide that to my local SEO clients, my tree service contractors, because it's not a heavy lift. What I offer as my guarantee is, a 5x5 radius, 25 square mile area, right? So I tell them, that's not very big. It's really not. So it's not. And we just target top level search queries: tree service, tree trimming, tree prune, or removal. Excuse me. Those are the 3 top level queries: tree service, tree trimming, tree removal. That's it. Those 3 are top level keywords. And so I'll tell them, like, we'll get you into the Maps 3 pack across a 25 square mile area where your business is located for your top 3 search queries within the next 4 months, or we'll continue working on your project for free until it does. I can still offer that because it's that's not usually hard to do. And again, if you just follow best practices, standard operating procedure, that is precisely what this is. The local ops, this is exactly what we do for all clients every time. Right there's the checklist. This is precisely the sequence of tasks that we implement for every client and the timeframes. The timeframes vary slightly from client to client, depending on the complexity of the project. But this is pretty much SOP for how I get clients results every time. And for a small area like that, 5x5, so a 5x5 grid with 1 mile spacing, or you can, jigger it however you want, to make it about the same area, so you can have more data, but more data nodes, more data points, but still the same area. So that's all I do. We say and it's always where they're located. I don't care if they want to target 2 cities away. That's not what we're guaranteeing. We're targeting where they're located, full stop. And a lot of the times they're already, they already got partial ranking there anyway. But that's what I guarantee. If they already have that amount of rankings, then no, I don't guarantee that, because there's no reason to. I'll tell them, like, we don't do guarantees for companies that are already performing well. We'll tell them we're going to push your maps profile coverage area as far and wide as possible, but we don't know how far we can push that until we start on the campaign. And that's what I talked about earlier, that kind of invisible barrier or boundary that always occurs, that yes, you can brute force past that at times, but it doesn't last very long. And so I've found that when we find where those kind of edges are in the maps coverage area, that is no longer where if we typically can, with the methods that I just described earlier, guys, we can usually see improvements to start pushing in whatever direction it is that we're targeting, or sometimes multiple directions. But in any case, we can usually see some gains. They may be slight, they may be small gains, but we see improvements. But at some point, you're going to see that the gains stop. And that's where I tell my clients, look, we're going to find where this boundary is that the GBP just won't get exposure for beyond that area. And the way that we do that is after 2 months of consistent effort, if we saw no gains or very marginal gains, like not even worth mentioning, then after 2 months of attempts of trying to push that exposure expansion a little bit further, if after 2 months we don't see any gains at all, or only very very marginal gains, like nothing, not even worth mentioning, then we stop. We say we found it, and then from that point forward, we focus on organic performance beyond that section, or I then recommended the client to try to secure another GBP. But most of the time, that's not in the cards anymore, because the ability to get GBPs without actually verifying them, to a real valid business location now is much harder. So I tell the clients, I do still make that as an offer, like, or you can try to secure another GBP in, beyond that area, so that now you can get maps coverage there too. But most of the time, that's not really in the cards, because they don't have any way to verify GBP. You see what I'm saying? So we say, okay, well, you've got 2 other options. You've got Google Ads for the areas that we can't rank in maps, and you've got organic ranking. And those 2 combined can still generate a fair amount of leads, especially if they're doing local service ads. I've never done, I manage 1 local service ads client right now, and that's it. Never did it before. It's actually really easy to manage compared to regular Google Ads. And he gets pretty good results with that. It's the only client I've ever managed with the local service ads. But like Google search ads, just in the tree service industry, it's very hard to make them profitable, in my opinion. It's just, I honestly, I'm not a Google Ads guy, but so I just don't know how to do it. But anyway, that's what I was recommending. Okay. So, all right, we're going to move on. Next one. So 4 months, yeah, I still do that, but it's like I said, it's a fairly narrow area. If they're already past that, then I don't know how far out we can push them. So I don't make any guarantees. This is usually for those contractors that basically have no online presence. And so I make that guarantee as kind of a way to alleviate their fears. And it's not hard. By the way, the reason why I said 4 months was because I used to, and my guarantee used to be stronger, because I used to say, we'll do it in 90 days or three months, or you don't pay, which means we would refund their money. And when I had that as my guarantee offer, there was the first summer or season, the first busy season that I had that as my guarantee. There was 2 different campaigns that I had, client campaigns that had subscribed under that guarantee, that, at 6 weeks in, right? So we're talking, 90 days is what, 12 weeks. I'm sorry. So like at 8 weeks in, 2 months in, we weren't anywhere near what I had described was my guarantee. And it was like down to the wire, like the last week before the 90 days was up, that I was able to pull it out of my ass by doing like a bunch of press releases and stuff where I actually lost a little bit of money, but not near as much as I would have lost had I had to refund 3 months of payments that I had already executed and provided deliverable paid staff members or vendors or whatever for the deliverables, all that kind of stuff. Like I'd come out of use their retainer money already, so I would have been coming out of pocket to refund the money, and not just refunding their money, but literally coming, because the deliverables were already, I wasn't going to get that back. You get what I'm saying? And so after by the way, I was able to pull it off at the last minute for both of them. But that's when I changed my guarantee. I said, I'm not going to do that again. I'm not going to offer the money back guarantee. This is SEO, man. I can't guarantee this shit like that. I can say we'll do it in 4 months, or we'll continue working on it until it does. See if people take me up on that. And never had a problem hitting that one, just to be clear. All right. Good question. Huzzy says, for the link building section of local SEO SOP you released a couple weeks ago, that's local ops. That's what we're talking about right here. He says, is that the same process you use for both client work as well as your white label link building campaigns? If not, what do you do differently? No, it's not the same process, because these are for my retail agency clients. These are my local SEO clients. I apply this exact same system or process every time, because they're my retail agency clients as a white label. Oh, you mean as far as just the link building stuff? Yeah. Okay. Forgive me for misinterpreting your question. Yeah, absolutely. It's the exact same thing. The only difference is for my local SEO clients, I also do outreach links. I've talked about this on Mastermind, or excuse me, on Hump Day Hangouts, etc. I use QGP as my outreach link provider. I don't provide those types of links myself, because it's the outreach links. QGP stands for quality guest posts. I use this service for outreach links for all of my local SEO clients, depending on what retainer level they're on. Most of my tree contractor clients are on an average of about $1,000 a month retainer, the vast majority of them. Okay. I have a few that are at 1,500 or 2,000 because they are either in more competitive areas or they serve larger service areas. Okay. And so it just requires more link building because there's more target pages, all that kind of stuff. But in any case, once per quarter, so once every 3 months, I will buy for my lower retainer based clients one outreach link. These start at basically $199 per link. That's one link for $199. Okay. And what I'm doing when I'm buying links from this vendor for that is I'm buying links that are still relevant, at least at the referring page level. I'm still looking for relevance, but then I'm looking for traffic metrics specifically. That's what I'm buying, is a link that has traffic statistics, essentially, meaning it maybe not the referring page URL itself has a lot of traffic, but the domain does. And that's what I'm buying when I buy these links, because a lot of the links that I provide under semantic links, they're pushing relevance. That's what they're intended for. Some of them have traffic, some of them don't, or some of them have traffic, but it's not enough to really be measurable by a lot of these big tools or whatever. So what we're pushing is relevance. What I found is that if you can mix in some links that also have traffic, and among all those links with relevance, it really helps the whole campaign just to perform better. And so because these are so expensive, I only will do one link per quarter for my lower priced or tiered subscribers or clients, whatever you want to call it. And for my higher tier guys, we'll buy two. Does that make sense? The $1,500 and $2,000 a month retainer clients will buy two per quarter. For the $1,000 a month and lower, because some of them are just on front end services stuff or whatever, we'll just buy one per quarter. Does that make sense? And that way we focus most of the client's budget on semantic links, which are significantly more cost effective. But a lot of those links lack the traffic component, right? And so if you can buy that elsewhere, which is what we do with those outreach links, niche edits, and guest posts, where I still look for page level relevance. I don't care so much as the domain itself has relevance matched to what it's ultimately linking to, but I do want the page level to be the referring page that contains the link to be topically relevant. And then from that, it's a matter of traffic metrics. Okay. And again, that starts at about $199 a link. So it's not cheap. Other than that, everything else that I do for white label link building clients, as well as for as far as link building goes, 100%. There's no difference whatsoever. That's the only difference. And I tell that to link building clients too, by the way. I tell link building clients, because when they ask, is there anything else that you would suggest? Yes, outreach links. That's not something we provide. Here's a vendor that I recommend if you want to use them, or find your own, So I'm transparent about that. I always try to be. Good question. Next one. Which brings me next question. This was about understanding ID pages. What the fuck is a cloud page? It's just a HTML page hosted on some sort of cloud storage service like Amazon S3, simple storage solutions. God, was it Microsoft Azure, which is Microsoft kind of storage. You could do it in Google Drive, but you used to be able to host HTML pages in Google Drive. I don't know if you can still do that. I don't think you can. Maybe you can, but I know you can do it in Google Developers Console or something. Anyway, it's just a cloud hosted page. All that means is a HTML page hosted on a cloud storage type of a bucket. Right? That's all it is. All right, moving on. James says, what tools and click settings do you use for CTR manipulation too? I just mentioned it. Um, SERP Empire is okay. Guys, I just don't find a lot of value in CTR apps anymore, just so you know, because Google's gotten so much better. You know what? Oh, good. Thank God. I thought it was going to take me right into my dashboard. SERP Empire, I use this for kind of just, for scale, for adding a CTR component at scale to a large number of clients. Okay. Because the way that SERP Empire works, the way that I use it is it integrates with Search Console. And so it auto optimizes the campaign based upon current performance of a page URL and the search queries, et cetera. So it won't even send search and click signals to page URLs that don't meet the criteria to be worthy of a search and click campaign. You see what I'm saying? So I'll use this because of Search Console integration. It makes it easy to auto optimize the campaign. And then you can go in and add some kind of your own settings to it as well. You can modify the times in which the bots are active, the search and clicks are active, and all that kind of stuff. So you can still customize the campaigns, but it's all the volume of signals, meaning the quantity of signals is all based, and when it even sends the search and click signals is all based upon Search Console data. And so that's why I will use this at scale for just adding to campaigns. If it's a service area business with an unpublished street address, a lot of the times I'm not even going to use it. I will use this if it is a GBP with a published street address for tree contractors, for example. But guys, Google's getting so much better at determining whether it's like basically invalidating traffic that it can't confirm is from a valid or verified traffic source. You understand what I'm saying? So that's why I just don't think there's a lot of value in these anymore. It's still kind of just another layer of signals that we apply to campaigns. But if I'm going to try to do a targeted CTR campaign, I'm going to use what I just shared down here, proximity push, which is using Google display ads to achieve the desired effect by buying Google user traffic, verified Google user traffic directly from Google. You understand? That's why this works. And so, but it's not scalable. At least I don't think it is. I mean, perhaps I could develop an AI agent that could build these campaigns out. I probably could, if I had the time to do it. That would be awesome. As a matter of fact, there's an idea for somebody to build. Go get the local ops training, go through this and figure out a way to automate that. There's a whole nother service. You could build CTR services on Google Ads. You know what I mean? If you could develop a way to scale it, it's just done manually. It's very difficult to scale. Like I said, I will apply this type of a method for stubborn campaigns, but I try to avoid it when possible because it's manual. All right. Last question, or two more. Is there any downside to making hundreds of gsites and linking them into a tiered pyramid structure that funnels all the power to one gsite with links to your money site? I don't know. Probably not, but you test with it. That's all. Just don't test on a main, like a money site that's earning revenue or that's a client site or anything else. Set up a test site. Test the structure. Peter Drew has a Google Sites builder. I think he called it, he rebranded it something or another, but that's what it does. It builds Google Sites and it tiers them and it's all automated. Peter Drew's good at that kind of stuff. So you might want to check out his tool because that might help, or you might already have a tool that does it, but test with it. Just throw up a test site and use that as an example, and try it. I don't see why it wouldn't work. Tiered linking works. There's no question. Gsites work. It's no question. So I've not done that specific method. I don't like to use those automated tools, and I don't like to do spammy link building anymore. I just don't. So, but try it and see. Just don't do it on a site that's a client site or something that's earning you money in case it does cause a problem. See what I'm saying? All right, last one is from B. Cannon. He says, and then we're done. We're right on time too. I'm just starting out on social media. Where would you suggest I start? I've been told Facebook to LinkedIn and everything in between. I only sell to businesses and I usually save them money and solve most all their telecommunication requirements. We are very geographically oriented, only handling 3 territories currently in Southern California. The main thing we have to offer is service, and we only have top rated products to provide that we have tested and felt comfortable with, I guess. We have been in business for 25 years. Okay, so just starting out on social media, where do you suggest you start? Okay, I got to be honest, like other than for generating leads for Semantic Mastery, social media is not something that I use to generate leads for my agency. Well, because of my training content that goes out on on semantic mastery channels and stuff, will often attract agencies for my white label services. But that's not how I intentionally go out to close business, right? I don't try to generate leads for my agency through social media. I find that, again, I offer SEO services and link building services, et cetera. I'm not a guy that likes to spend time on social media, period. That's why I basically am non-existent on all social media except for YouTube, right? And YouTube, it's a corporate thing, not a personal thing, right? I'm not on Facebook anymore. I try to avoid Facebook at all costs. I honest to God do. I only use X because of Grok. LinkedIn, I have a profile there because I do get a lot of inquiries from LinkedIn and podcast stuff that I do, interviews and things like that. So LinkedIn is pretty important for me as an agency guy, but in the tree service industry, LinkedIn is basically useless, right? So depends on your industry, right? In my industry, I've not been somebody that spent a lot of time in social media marketing or generating leads through social media. I've attempted social media marketing to generate leads for tree service contractors over the years, and it failed miserably every time. And I look at it this way: who the hell goes to Facebook to find a tree service, right? Instead, they go to Google or now AI chat and they search for, tree service near me, or who's the best tree service company in city or whatever. And so that's kind of a search type of a thing. So I don't work in industries where social media targeting has been really effective. So I just don't do it. And personally, I just don't really like social media personally. So that's like, you know, part of the reason why I probably haven't been effective at it, because I never liked it anyway. I've always hated Facebook and everything else. And so now I try to avoid it. So to answer your question, it depends on your business vertical or the industries that you target. Where do they congregate, right? Where do they associate? Like which platforms? Get there first, right? Where's the best place to set up a hot dog stand? Outside of a hungry crowd or nearby a hungry crowd, like outside of a stadium, or something like that. So find out where the people are, the industries that you're trying to target. And, is it LinkedIn? Like I said, for agencies, LinkedIn is great for me, but for tree contractors, LinkedIn sucks. Facebook is better for tree contractors, right? Almost all tree contractors have a Facebook page. So if I was going to be targeting the tree contractors as an agency trying to sell marketing services, then Facebook is one of the targeting options that we use, but we're not aggressive about it. All we do is you can check it out. You go to facebook.com and check out the treecarehq page. You can check it out on X too. Sorry, let me go to Facebook. I'll just demonstrate this really quickly. And Chris, if you got to go, dude. I'm just going to stay to answer this last question and then I'm done. I'm going to show you guys Tree Care HQ. Adam usually stays, but Chris can bounce. So Tree Care HQ, you guys can see, this was 3 hours ago, right? So my team, when they publish a post for a tree contractor on the directory, they are told to then go tag the Facebook page of that contractor via Facebook page, so that the contractor gets a notification that their page was tagged by Tree Care HQ. Do the same thing on X, right? If we go look at X, but it's not me trying to communicate with them. It's just because we're communicating via cold email. That is the way that we work. Let me just show you. Just go to Tree Care HQ. We do all of our lead gen for my agencies through cold email. I've been teaching about that for years, guys. For 5 years, that is how I've grown all of my agencies, is through cold email primarily. That's it. So social media is just a reminder because we've already had communication contact via email. So they've replied to my cold email when I'm sending a cold email asking them to confirm their contact information for their free directory listing on the treecarehq.com directory. I'm not approaching them as a marketer or as an SEO or as a lead generator. None of that. I'm approaching them as a tech specialist, so a support technician at the directory, so that I can validate or confirm their company's contact information for their free listing on the treecarehq.com directory. And so they've already replied, which is why we don't even start creating the listing until they've replied to the email, either confirming their information or providing, updating inaccurate information. And at which point, then we go publish the listing. And through that process, we have a series of automated communications that are handled through high level that continue building rapport with the contact, the tree service owner. And then once the listing is ready for delivery, that's when then we add them to the listing delivery sequence, which then prompts them to schedule a call so that we can review their listing with them. That's when we will also tag them via Facebook. That is also when it's published. This is an automation through IFTTT. It automatically publishes to to X, the X profile. So I don't use it for direct communication to try to land clients for my agencies because I don't like Facebook or social media for that anyway. Except for LinkedIn, I've used it to communicate there with potential clients. Outside of that, none of the social media stuff that I do is intended to as a direct lead generation tool for my agency. It's a supporting way to just remind them that we're there, if that's clear. So I'm not the best to answer that question because, again, social media has not been something that I've ever really desired to do. I've tried it a few times and have never been successful with it, in part probably because I've just always had an aversion to it. If I enjoyed it more, I probably would have been better at it. So I don't know if that helps, but find where they are. You want to create a platform there first, but also try not to be pitchy. I don't know what your approach is. If you've been in business for 25 years, you probably have a good approach. I would assume you would. But in social media, like the worst thing you can do is what the idiots do on Facebook, which is part of the reason I don't like Facebook at all anymore, is where you'll get PM'd all the time and friend requests all the time with and they go right into a pitch. Like that just drives me nuts. That's part of the reason I don't even like Facebook anymore, right? Because I'm tired of getting contacted by randoms all the time, wanting to offer me their services or ask me questions about my services when they could have just gone to Hump Day Hangouts or sent me an email. You know what I mean? Or scheduled a call with me via any one of my sales pages or booking pages. Don't contact me on Facebook about it. Reach out to me via a business channel. You know what I mean? That's just because I don't like Facebook. So anyway, hopefully that's clear. All right, guys. I think we're wrapped up. I don't see many questions or comments in the comment box that I didn't answer already. So I'm going to wrap it up, guys. Thanks everybody for being here. We will see you